I was thinking about the news about housing sales going down and the uncertainty about that. How people are apparently pulling back and not buying houses either because they're unable to or maybe because they want to keep their cash reserves and they're not sure about their jobs. That made me think about how I've shifted as an independent contractor. And so I tend to prioritize the family purchases now. It just made me realize it. I think this is actually a good thing, and so that's the whole point of what I wanted to say today. Is when we're an employee, or at least when I was an employee, we tend to think of the income stream as perpetual, and so we tend to buy things on the assumption that income is going to keep coming in. And now I'm much more focused on the short term and how is our cash position, and much
Right.
more planning out. It's much more of an ant and grasshopper type story. And when that hit me yesterday, as I'm listening to the news about housing, I'm thinking this is not necessarily a bad thing that we all are more conscious about shoring up the family cash. And of course, it's bad news for everyone in the real estate business who are dependent on housing sales. But I think for the rest of us to rethink our cash position, that's excellent. And if that's what happens to the average American, that we start to have more savings, that would really be a good thing.
I question whether or not it's sane for us to make an indicator of economic health the willingness of people to risk money they don't have, to buy things that they can't guarantee they're going to pay for. And the problem I see, of course, as an entrepreneur, I see the housing market tied directly to the job market. And so I don't know if that's healthy at all to say that economic health is the willingness of Americans to gamble.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. I hope this is a change in how much cash people are willing to have on hand and how they deal with uncertainty. There could be some good news out of this. Of course, meanwhile, there's a lot of people who are in trouble, and that's a concern. But that was this week's observation, is that I noticed my habits have changed. I wouldn't call it, some people call this a feeling of insecurity, but I call it just a more awareness of uncertainty. And so what do you do with uncertainty? You prepare for contingencies. You prepare for the wider range of possible outcomes. And for us as freelancers, independent contractors, the wider range of possibility is you don't always know what is the length of time between jobs or assignments, and is it going to be a few days or a few weeks. And so long as you're prepared for that, then it's not a problem. And that goes back to the planned purchases concept. Is if I come off my job sometime around late November, early December, then I need to be prepared for coasting through December without much work. And so if I take care of a few key expenses now, then I've got no problem in December. And so it's just about planning. So the observation is that it's interesting. I deal with uncertainty in different ways, and I actually feel like I prepare the household finances a little bit better than when I was an employee.
Well, the other side of, you really talked about two things. One mostly about risk. Uncertainty is another way of another adjective or another noun we use to talk about risk. But so it's back to gambling. But at the same time, you also mention Americans saving more. And I would say more about that. For me, I think sometimes we as free agents and entrepreneurs, we make it sound easy. And I got to tell you, it didn't look easy from the outside before I got involved in it. And it can almost seem a little arrogant of, hey, I don't have anything to worry about. My finances are set because I'm always selling myself. I don't want it to sound arrogant, because one of the reasons I can get away with talking that way is that I saved a huge emergency fund when I was in corporate life. In fact, my definition of a job. A job is a means of saving up to launch your business. It's a capital resource. It's instead of going to the Small Business Association and increasing risk and taking a loan, you go get a job and you save whatever percentage, half your salary, and that becomes your capital. So I like corporate employers because they're great resource. They have lots of money to throw around, and they're great resources for capital. But that emergency fund, I got that from David Ramsey. His financial advice of 10 steps. Step 1 is always save a sufficient emergency fund. And he would say the size of emergency fund I have is much larger than what he was talking about. But my emergency fund is designed to support more than a family. I went through his steps. I did it for my family back when I was in corporate life, and it's worthwhile. And then I went back and revisited and said, what kind of emergency fund do I need to stake my entire family on a business? And that's a little bit more.
Yes.
But that allows us to make some decisions that I couldn't ordinarily make. We have surprise expenses, and we have things that come up that we can act now upon that maybe will save us more money later, or we can make some life change decisions. I can hop on a plane, and it's partly because even though my money as a contractor, a contract employee, or entrepreneur goes up and down, I can draw upon this fund and I can replace it as that money comes in.
I love that. Yeah, I really liked the way you handled that transition.